Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3. Check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Hi, my name is Rowena Tominang. I'm the president of Berkeley City College, and it's my honor and pleasure to welcome all of you to our State of the City event this evening. I'm so happy to be hosting and having you get to take a look at the college if you haven't been here before. It would be nice for you to come back and, do a walkabout on our floors and see all of our student artwork. I'm also happy to be hosting because we have such a strong partnership with Berkeley City and many of you who are our community partners. And so with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Mayor Jesse Arreguín. Okay.
Well, good evening. What a great turnout. Thank you all so much for being here as we present on the work that we've done over the past year to make Berkeley work for everyone and move our city forward, and to also talk about some of the challenges and opportunities we face as a city. I want to thank Berkeley City College President Dr. Rowena Tominang for your warm introduction and for being a valued and active partner in our community's efforts to expand educational opportunity to all of our youth. It's so wonderful to see so many Berkeley residents, business owners, and community leaders here tonight. I want to especially acknowledge my fellow elected officials on the City Council. We have certainly a quorum of the City Council here tonight. First, Vice Mayor Cheryl Davila, thank you for joining us this evening. Councilmember Lori Drosty. Councilmember Ben Bartlett. Councilmember Sophie Hahn. Councilmember Chris Worthington. And Councilmember Susan Wangraff. Thank you all for being here this evening. I also want to recognize our director on the BART Board of Directors, Rebecca Saltzman. Thank you for joining us. Our representative on the Peralta Community College District Board of Trustees, Karen Weinstein. Our representative on the East Bay Mud Board, Andy Katz. Thank you, Andy, for joining us. We have a number of Rent Board members here this evening, James Chang, Paola Laverde, and John Solosky. Thank you for joining us. And School Board Director Ty Alper. Thank you for joining us as well. I also want to thank and acknowledge our City Manager, Dee Williams-Ridley, and the heads of many of our city departments, our Chief of Police, Director of Human Resources, City Attorney, Director of Health, Housing, Community Services, Economic Development. We have many department heads who work every single day to not only advance our shared progressive values, but move our city forward. I thank you so much for being here this evening. I'm delighted to address you here tonight at Berkeley City College, a learning community founded on the principle that all are welcome. And since 1974, this school has provided a foundation for generations of students to gain workforce training, certificate and degree programs, and prepare for transfer to four-year universities. Our community college system is a great equalizer, enabling people of all generations to learn and grow. And the values of this school align with those of our city: a commitment to diversity, opportunity, knowledge, and social justice. Several months ago, I had the opportunity out in the atrium to address several of the student leaders of the Undocumented Community Resource Center here at Berkeley City College. And BCC is home to a diverse population, which includes immigrants and refugees and other undocumented students. These are challenging times for our immigrant community, with children facing separation from their families, protections for dreamers being stripped away, and increasing immigration enforcement, even in the Bay Area. In 2015, students worked tirelessly with faculty here at Berkeley City College to open the center, a welcoming space for undocumented students to come together and receive services, including academic support, legal help, mental and emotional support. And with increasing threats to our undocumented community, a center like this is needed now more than ever and represents this college's commitment to the safety and security and success of all students. But we also picked this location because, to me, Berkeley City College is emblematic of Berkeley's future. Students who come here dream big. They strive for something better, and through education are working to improve their lives and create a brighter future. And Berkeley City College makes that possible for thousands of young people in our community, including immigrants, students of color, first-generation college students like myself, as well as those re-entering the workforce. Berkeley City College is a place where people from all walks of life can come together, can learn together, and collaborate. It's that spirit of innovation and collaboration that defines our city. So thank you to Berkeley City College for hosting us tonight and for your work every day to improve the lives of so many in our community. Tonight, I have the honor of presenting my administration's work in our first year in office, and boy, 1 year goes by very quickly, as well as our vision for the future of this city. And our work would not be possible without our city council and our city manager and staff who work tirelessly every day to make Berkeley better. We have formed a great new partnership that is working to move Berkeley forward and get things done. And we will continue to unite our whole city council around a common set of priorities to work constructively to improve our city. Critical to the success of our city are our city staff. And I want to take this opportunity to recognize a few city staff for their dedicated service. One of them is Karen Solai, who works as a supervising library assistant and has been a city employee since 1971. That's 46 years and 8 months. Thank you for your decades of service. Another employee who we're joined with this evening is Elmar Kapfer, a supervising civil engineer in the Public Works Department. And in addition to many other projects that Elmar works on, he's been instrumental in the opening of the Stair Center, our new low-barrier shelter, which will provide respite from the harsh streets for our homeless population. Elmar has gone above and beyond his assigned duties to develop, coordinate, and deliver on this exciting project, which we will officially open tomorrow. And every day we see the compassion and commitment of our staff to the needs of our community. Elmar's work on this project will literally improve the lives of hundreds of homeless individuals in our city. So thank you, Elmar. And we know that this commitment also extends beyond our borders. I want to take this opportunity to recognize police and fire who helped our neighbors in the North Bay fires last October. Our firefighters responded after first working a fire that day in Tilden Park and then immediately left to Sonoma County. They worked in Santa Rosa's Kofi Park, where they were instrumental in saving lives and homes. The crew was later replaced by Berkeley's Engine 26, who fought fires in the region for 10 more days. So I want to take this opportunity to mention these brave firefighters by name. Captain Kyle Fleming, apparatus operator Cliff Broom, firefighter paramedic Michael Shukin, Captain Morgan Jacobs Langlois, apparatus operator Mark Samotin, firefighter paramedic Matthew George, and firefighter paramedic Colin Quinland. Our brave and dedicated first responders and staff work every day to serve and improve our city. We thank you for your service. But to now transition, over the past 2 decades, the Bay Area has experienced unprecedented growth. And this economic boom has resulted in new companies, thousands of new jobs, and innovative technologies that have undoubtedly transformed our lives. Because of this expansion, California is now again the 5th largest economy in the world. In Berkeley, we're seeing enormous growth and change in our downtown and throughout our city, with new businesses, restaurants, and a new hotel soon to be open in downtown Berkeley. But the benefits of this prosperity are not being shared by everyone. In fact, they're being shared by a dwindling few. In addition to the racial diversity that we pride ourselves, which is represented by our city seal here, that diversity is threatened by rising costs of housing and growing inequality. Depending on where you live in our city, the color of your skin, your life expectancy, as well as your likelihood that you will get higher rates of asthma, heart disease, or diabetes, a higher likelihood of being stopped by a police officer, and less likelihood of being able to succeed in our schools is a reality. This brings us to a critical question. What kind of a city do we want to be in 10 or even 50 years from now? Will we continue to be a city where all people have the opportunity to call home? Or will we be a city where those who serve us our food and make us our coffee and build our homes can't afford to live here? Will we be a city where the less fortunate live under our bridges, in our parks, and on our streets, and everyone does their best to ignore them? If we truly are to be a city which prides itself in justice and equality, we must ensure that every person and every child has an equal opportunity to reach their dreams. Bay Area cities are very good at attracting talented workers from across the world to take lucrative positions in fast-growing tech-savvy companies. Yet we need to do more to help existing residents access high-quality jobs in the innovation economy and in the industries that support it. We know that disparities in opportunity begin at birth and continue throughout childhood. And that is why 10 years ago, the City of Berkeley and the Berkeley Unified School District launched the 2020 Vision for Children and Youth to close the still persistent achievement gap among our African American and Latino students. And this initiative is unique in terms of city and school district partnerships because it's a collaboration of many different partners: our school district, Berkeley City College, UC Berkeley, and many nonprofit partners. But it's also unique because it is a common vision for the type of society that we want to create. It's about dismantling hundreds of years of structural racism, segregation, and oppression, and building a new paradigm, one of more equitable outcomes for our children, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or income. And our 2020 vision consists of some 30 innovative programs, which help students from pre-K all the way to high school and beyond. There are programs like Bridge, which provides intensive school-based services to low-income students, starting in the 9th grade, as well as the Build program, which matches literacy tutors from Cal with 3rd grade students who are struggling to read. There are programs like our Biotech Academy, which was funded through a partnership with the Bayer Corporation, which provides 2 years of hands-on biotech classwork and real-world paid internships in the bioscience industry. And there are programs like the Berkeley Promise, a mentoring and academic support program that targets first-generation college students, which we launched last December. Because of these programs, more Latino and African American students are continuing to college or vocational programs in the city of Berkeley. And one of these students is Hema Morales, a senior at Berkeley High School. Growing up, Hema, whose family is from Michoacan, Mexico, didn't know anyone who went to college or worked in a job that required a college degree. And when my office staff met with her, she said something that was both shocking and poignant. She said that for many years, she didn't think that college was for people that looked like me. But after enrolling in Bridge, Hema's worldview changed. She not only received help with homework, test prep, and personalized advising, but got a chance to go to field trips to universities and take workshops on internships and financial aid. And thanks to the Bridge program, Hema is headed to UC Riverside, where she plans to study political science. Her story is not an anomaly for this program. For the 3rd year, all of Berkeley High's Bridge students were accepted by at least one 4-year university. That's an amazing accomplishment. And thanks to the tireless work of my staff and Berkeley City College and the Berkeley Community Fund, the Berkeley Promise has recently partnered with the East Bay Community Foundation, which will allow this wonderful program to expand in the years to come. Our goal is that the Promise can eventually support 100 students a year as they move through Berkeley City College and onto four-year universities. We've also recently connected the UC Berkeley School of Education with our school district to support the professional development of our teachers so they can utilize best teaching practices to reach all students in their classrooms. And while I'm thrilled about the opportunities that Vision 2020 and Berkeley City College are creating for our youth, I am worried about our city and our region's future. 20% of Berkeley's residents are living below the poverty level. That's twice the national average. And many renters are paying more than half their income on their housing, leaving little for other expenses. While housing costs have risen dramatically, wages have also not increased. And this has resulted in growing income inequality in our city. And as inequality rises throughout our region and state, we must make sure that our community remains a diverse, thriving, safe, and welcoming city for all. And I hear regularly from people who grew up in this city or who work in this community for many years that they simply can't afford to live here anymore. Our artists and our teachers have been pushed out of our city due to higher and higher rents, which is really a tragedy. But I'm proud to say that our administration and my fellow elected officials at City Hall have been working to broaden opportunity and to make this city more affordable and accessible for all. Over the past several years, the city has approved over 2,000 units of additional housing, with 1,600 units currently under construction or recently built. We're seeing a growth of housing development in our city, particularly in our downtown. And I'm thankful last year that the City Council made the city's largest investment ever in anti-displacement measures, including eviction defense and emergency rental assistance to keep people in their homes. And because of this and our ongoing collaboration with community groups like the Eviction Defense Center and the East Bay Community Law Center, many longtime residents facing eviction have been able to remain housed. Wendy V is one of these people. Last year, Wendy, who has lived in her apartment for the past 18 years, was told that her rent was going to double. This happened after the death of her longtime partner when her landlord discovered that she was a subtenant and not officially on the lease. The East Bay Community Law Center, using the funding the City Council provided, took on Wendy's case and advocated for her, ultimately helping her stay in her apartment. Without it, Wendy would have had no choice but to either move in with a relative or friend or move out of state where she had no connections, severing her ties to her community. These are people like Judith Allen, who was being harassed by her landlord to move out just as she was going through chemotherapy. But the Eviction Defense Center issued a letter demanding that the landlord stop the harassment and perform much-needed repairs and eventually helped her stay in her unit. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Judith told us that the Eviction Defense Center and Rent Board was instrumental, and without their help, she might have ended up on our streets. So we're so glad that you're here tonight and that you remain a valued member of our community. I'm thankful that these community organizations do this critical work each and every day. And key to keeping our city diverse and affordable is the creation of new low-income housing. But unfortunately, we've seen shrinking funding from the federal government and deep cuts to our Section 8 program. This makes it increasingly harder to provide affordable housing despite the growing need for it. The City Council is advancing several new projects to expand affordable housing, including the 142-unit Berkeley Way development to create affordable housing, supportive housing for the homeless, and emergency shelter. And we're also launching a small sites program this fall to help nonprofits acquire and rehabilitate existing multi-unit buildings to preserve affordability and to prevent displacement. And while there are many exciting new initiatives, what we lack are the resources to implement them. And that is why I am excited to announce that the City Council will be advancing this next month a package of measures for the November 2018 ballot to address our housing and homelessness crisis. And they include a $135 million general obligation bond for affordable housing, as well as a 1% increase in our real property transfer tax on properties over $1 million to directly fund homeless services. With this package, funding the construction of new affordable housing, supportive services to help the homeless transition to self-sufficiency, and the resources for expanded emergency shelter, navigation centers, and mental health services, we can stem the tide of homelessness in the city of Berkeley. But of course, one of the terrible effects of our unaffordable housing market is an increase in the number of people that are living on our streets. And according to unofficial estimates, there are roughly 1,000 homeless people in Berkeley, most of whom are unsheltered. So it's no secret that in recent years, we've been unable to provide the services needed for this growing population to be able to alleviate their suffering and to move them from the streets to housing. This, in my view, is simply unacceptable. It is a great failure of our society that we've allowed this humanitarian crisis to grow so far out of hand, not just in our city, but across the country. And that is why it is a top priority of my administration to address the crisis of homelessness in our city. And after much research and consultation, we launched an exciting new initiative, the Pathways Project. The goal of the Pathways Project is twofold: to address the crisis on our streets and to reduce the impact of encampments on businesses and residents. And to address these two goals, I'm happy to report that tomorrow we will open the Pathways Stair Center, the first year-round, low-barrier shelter for the homeless in West Berkeley. At the Stair Center, people will be able to stay up for 6 months in a service-rich environment where mental health, drug treatment, employment assistance, and housing navigation will be provided. And at the end of their stay, clients will be connected to housing and provided rental subsidies to keep them housed after their stay. The Stair Center is one piece of the Pathways Project and Berkeley's efforts to address our homeless crisis. One of the most common misconceptions about the homeless is that they choose to be on the streets. The sad reality is that many have simply been priced out of their homes, even those who are working. Others have lost their jobs as a result of addiction or mental health issues or other circumstances. We know that by building more affordable housing for the extremely low income and increasing case management, that we can give people not just a hand out, but a hand up. Stories are numerous here in our city, like that of Jared Jeffrey. Jared's a 31-year-old living in our men's shelter a block away from here in downtown Berkeley. He used to be a licensed nurse, but he lost his license after getting addicted to pain medication. He then got another job as a security guard, but couldn't afford the rising rents in his apartment, which he shared with 6 people, and now is in our shelter. With the help of the Berkeley Food and Housing Project, Jared recently started a construction internship with the Rice Center and is working on rebuilding his life. There are people like Bruce North, who's been looking for work ever since he got out of jail a year ago. Bruce is 55 and has experience working in information technology. But because of his age and his criminal record, employers have been hesitant to hire him. He receives SSI, but it's not enough to cover even a room for rent. So he has been staying in our men's shelter a block away from here, as well as volunteering at local organizations during the day. Bruce wants to be a contributing member of our society, but whenever he tries, the past simply catches up with him. With additional funds, we can help people like Bruce and Jared get their lives back on track with subsidized housing, supportive services, and employment training. And so my administration has been working tirelessly over the past year to develop a comprehensive plan to end unsheltered homelessness in the city of Berkeley. And our plan, soon to be announced, will result that within 5 years, we will guarantee either shelter or housing for the over 1,000 unhoused individuals in our community. Imagine a future where we can provide shelter for the majority of our homeless. That vision can be a reality with your help. We believe with the housing package that we're placing on the November 2018 ballot and the funding leverage from state, county, and private sources that we can create permanent supportive housing needed to break that cycle of homelessness. I believe that our entire city benefits when more among us have access to safety, to shelter, and to a roof over their heads. These things, I believe, are basic human rights that we must guarantee. Economic prosperity is also key to our city's future. And just a few statistics, our unemployment rate is at 3.2%, the lowest it's been in many years, and lower than both the county and state average. Our vacancy rate downtown is under 5%, the lowest of any surrounding city. Berkeley's innovation sector is active and is home to at least 10 co-working spaces that host more than 750 businesses and 70,000 square feet of office space. And as the home of the flagship campus of the University of California and the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, an incredible amount of research and innovation is occurring in our community. We want to capture and incubate those research spin-offs right in our own community. And that will require more office space and continue the kinds of initiatives like the Berkeley Skydeck, which is a co-working and innovation space. We also want to encourage worker cooperatives as a more progressive model for upward mobility as well. And part of Berkeley's unique character are our small, locally owned businesses. However, Berkeley has long had a reputation of being difficult for businesses to locate here. I'm proud to say that our Office of Economic Development, I want to thank Jordan Klein, the Manager of Economic Development, is working tirelessly to make it easier to start a business in Berkeley. Over the past year, they've conducted interviews with business owners and applicants to better understand what they need to succeed. And with that in mind, the city is working to streamline our permitting process. We're going to be providing a dedicated staff who can provide support for existing and prospective entrepreneurs to navigate our entitlement process. And most importantly, that person will be a single point of contact for any business that wants to open up in Berkeley, from the early stages of an application through occupancy and opening, and will provide expertise, capacity, and resources for entrepreneurs in our community. We're also piloting a new small business assistance and retention program to help small businesses at risk of displacement or closure. We know that with new development, we are seeing businesses come and go. We want to help nurture and support those legacy businesses in our city. And we will do this through training in marketing and sales and budgeting and succession planning to provide dedicated resources to bring new businesses into Berkeley and to keep those long-standing businesses that are the fabric of our neighborhood commercial districts. A safe city is also key to Berkeley's future, and we are fortunate to have one of the best police departments in the country. Berkeley has had a long history of progressive and innovative policing. However, it's been a challenging time for our police department. We're seeing a significant staffing shortage due to retirements and transfers to other agencies. And while this is a problem not unique to Berkeley, it's having an impact on our ability to serve our city. As mayor, I am committed to working with our chief of police and the city council and city manager to provide the funding and support needed to recruit and to retain our police officers. And we must also reduce the impact of mental health calls on our police department. About 35% of calls to our police department relate to mental health crisis. Our proposed transfer tax measure will provide dedicated funding to expand mental health outreach and crisis response, to relieve some of the burden on our police department in responding to those calls so that they can better police and serve our community. Lastly, we need to build greater trust between law enforcement and our community. And while most Berkeley residents have great appreciation for our police, we know that mistrust does exist with certain groups, particularly with communities of color. And I'm committed to working with our police department to not only stabilize our police force, but to also expand our community-involved policing program. Finally, we're working to create a resilient and sustainable future for Berkeley. And last year, I unveiled Vision 2050, a community initiative to develop a long-term green infrastructure plan. I'm excited to announce that we've launched Vision 2050, bringing together a task force of experts in civil engineering, clean energy, sustainability, and green infrastructure. And this group will study how to make our city more resilient, climate smart, and safe and more technologically advanced. I want to touch upon something that happened last year, which we all know was extremely challenging for our city, the protests that happened in our park and on our streets. And these events tested Berkeley as we worked to balance the right of protesters to express their views with our desire to show the world that these hateful messages were abhorrent to us and our values. So we worked with community and faith-based organizations and UC Berkeley to reaffirm our city's values of sanctuary, diversity, and inclusivity. And we worked with a team of local artists, Miriam Stahl and Lena Wolf, to create the Berkeley Stands United Against Hate campaign. And one of these posters is right here. Which printed more than 20,000 signs that are distributed throughout our city. We still get requests every week for new signs. As I go around Berkeley, I still see these posters in windows, and it fills me with immense pride in how our community rose up and peacefully opposed the hateful messages of these groups. During those difficult days early last year, our police department faced tough circumstances, and I want to commend Chief Greenwood and the officers of the Berkeley Police Department for their excellent work. Our police made arrests, they confiscated weapons, and ensured that the situation did not escalate further, which would have put more people at risk. And although there was a lot of disagreements about the appropriate course of action, I believe that nonviolent response is the best response. And despite the anger that many of us felt after the violence in Charlottesville, we came together as a community and stood up for our values peacefully. Martin Luther King once said, to meet hate with retaliatory hate would do nothing but intensify the existence of evil in the universe. Hate begets hate. Violence begets more violence. Instead, we must meet the forces of hate with the power of love. We must meet physical force with soul force. I believe we did that here in Berkeley. At the counter rally that was held just a few blocks away from here, thousands of Berkeley residents and others from the region came together. They brought signs, they sang songs, they gave speeches and other forms of creative expression to condemn the hateful rhetoric of the alt-right. It was a beautiful event that made me so proud to be mayor of this city. Last year, during my State of the City address, I called on our city to make a renewed commitment to our progressive values in the face of a hostile federal administration and to show the world what we stand for. I'm proud that Berkeley is a leader in the resistance. And when the federal government separates immigrant children and cruelly imprisons them in internment camps, we will speak out. When ICE comes into our community, we will provide sanctuary. When the federal government reneges on its global commitment to address one of the greatest crises of humankind, our climate change crisis, we will lead. While the Trump administration retreats from the challenges of our day, America's cities, the great engines of innovation and diversity, must lead. We also have a greater responsibility to speak out against injustice, to demand change, and to lead on the progressive issues of our time. We as a city must be a beacon of hope during these dark times. Despite the tremendous challenges facing our nation and our city right now, I remain hopeful for Berkeley's future. We have risen to the occasion over this past year and begun work to address the long-standing challenges of affordability, inequality, poverty, and opportunity. In this city, we do not turn our back on the least fortunate, but work to give people a hand up. And each and every day, we are working to create a truly equitable city. A city where young families and teachers and service workers can call home. A city where all of our young people who graduate from our high school or UC Berkeley can feel optimistic about their future. A city where communities of color feel safe, welcome, and can still afford to live here. We are a proud sanctuary city, and we are committed to defending the safety and the rights of our immigrants, refugees, and other vulnerable communities. We are a community where people who need help with housing and food and other basic needs get it. We are a city that retains the diversity that makes our community such an amazing and innovative and dynamic place. I'm optimistic that working together, all of us, we will continue to build a city that puts fairness, inclusivity, justice, and compassion at the center of everything that we do. In closing, it is really the greatest honor of my life to serve as mayor of this amazing city. Thank you all for joining us this evening and for all that you do to make Berkeley an amazing community. Thank you. So please join us outside in the atrium for refreshments, and thank you all for coming this evening, and look forward to continue our partnership together.
That's good, it's like everybody says, if you're homeless, where do you live? And they always say Berkeley, Santa Barbara, or Santa Monica,
Yeah. Well, it's the if you give a mouse a cookie concept. But, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there has to be, I do agree. I think that doing that sort of little Robin Hood housing bill